here's my next round of predictions. I've got the Chiefs and the Steelers meeting. I have the Chiefs winning that one. I think the Steelers have a good chance to at least limit Patrick Mahomes because they have such a good defense, but I think Patrick Mahomes just can't quite be contained at the end of the day. He's like, you just have to outscore him, and I don't see the Steelers being able to do that. Ravens versus Colts. I have the Colts winning that one. I think the Colts are well balanced. I think that they have a better defensive line after getting DeForest Buckner. They can kind of exploit the weakness in the Ravens interior line now that Marshall Yanda's gone. So I have them advancing to the AFC Championship game. Lamar Jackson getting his first playoff win the previous round, but he still needs a little bit more seasoning and more experience behind a worse offensive line before he can win multiple playoff games. Packers and Saints in the NFC is a 3-5 matchup because I had a 7 seed win. I think the Saints are better than the Packers. I don't love picking the Saints outdoors at Lambeau, but I think the Packers are bound to crash and burn eventually if they're running solely on Aaron Rodgers fumes. So I will be going with the Saints in that one, and it'll set up a fantastic NFC Championship game matchup against the Buccaneers, who I think will knock off the 49ers. I think that's going to end up being an excellent game if that happens. That pass rush should test Tom Brady in that offense, but I think the Buccaneers' firepower should beat the 49ers secondary, because the one weakness they have is at the number 2 corner spot, and there are just so many pass catching weapons on this Tampa Bay offense. I don't think San Francisco will be able to fully contain them.
Yeah, that definitely is their one weakness. We saw them have trouble against Atlanta last year, late in the year. And so I'm definitely on board with that. I don't have that the playoff matchup, but I do think it would go the way you said. For my second round, I have the Chiefs versus the Bills, the 1-4 matchup. It's a good ride for the Bills, and I like their team. I think they have a chance if the Chiefs get injured, if Mahomes goes down, or if like several of his teammates get injured. But I do think it's going to be tough for Josh Allen to go into Kansas City and beat Patrick Mahomes. We saw Deshaun Watson have his chance last year. It didn't happen. Patrick Mahomes just makes magic happen in the fourth quarter. And to beat him, you have to get tons of pressure on him. You have to rattle him through 3 quarters, and then you have to outscore him in the fourth quarter because he's going to go nuts. And I don't think Josh Allen's quite there yet. Maybe he will be eventually in his third year. I think he's going to make big improvements, but I don't know. I don't think he's ready to win this game yet. Colts versus Ravens, I think it's going to be very close. I like the Colts defensive line against the Ravens offensive line. The Ravens that are great, maybe the best offensive line in the NFL last year, but they lost Marshall Yanda, as you said. And Marshall Yanda is a future Hall of Famer guard. And the Colts had DeForest Buckner in the interior, and I think that's going to be too much of a mismatch. So Colts versus Chiefs in the AFC Championship. For me in the NFC, I had the 49ers versus the Giants. I have the Giants pulling the upset for a couple of reasons why. One is something that you mentioned. The 49ers secondary is not that strong, especially if Richard Sherman, who's in his mid-30s now, takes a step backward. The Giants have so many receiving options, so I think that's going to be nice. They also have a good offensive line now with Andrew Thomas, they have Kevin Zeitler. If Nate Solder can stay healthy, that's going to be nice. So I think they could at least neutralize the 49ers pass rush enough that Daniel Jones can have a chance. So I like the Giants to pull the upset in San Francisco. And then the Vikings versus the Buccaneers, it just seems like such a big mismatch. The Vikings got the upset over the Saints, and we saw that last year, and they went into San Francisco and got blown out. This year they go into Tampa and get blown out. I don't think the secondary can cover all of Tom Brady's weapons.
Yeah, I like that Giants over San Francisco pick. On its surface, I was surprised by it, but you make like the argument the Giants are strong on offense, and their defense is the weaker part. So it's a strength against strength matchup. If they can find that one hole at the cornerback position on the Niners, I could somehow see them winning. But that'll be TJ thinks you're crazy for having that happen. But
he says I have them in the Super Bowl. We haven't gotten to that yet. We'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, if you had the Giants in the Super Bowl, I think that might be a little bit crazy, but we're not there yet. So we'll see what happens. But my last 2 games, so I have Chiefs and Colts in the AFC Championship game. I have the Colts pulling the upset there. That may be a little bit of a surprise, but I just think the Colts are just such a solid, well-built team. They have very few weaknesses. They have an excellent offensive line. I think they can expose some of the holes in that Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense isn't particularly strong. And if they play ball control and kind of keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands as much as they can, they'll be able to wear down the defense and maybe have the ball for one last drive where Phillip Rivers gets the team into field goal range and sends them to a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it won't be Adam Vinatieri kicking that game-winning field goal in this scenario. It'll probably be Chase McLaughlin or Rodrigo Blankenship. But yeah, Colts could pull the upset. I wouldn't count the Chiefs out, but I'm going with the Colts. And I have the Buccaneers beating the Saints in what should be a really exciting divisional matchup in that NFC Championship game. I just think that the Buccaneers should be that much better with Tom Brady at the helm. They have all the tools needed to beat a team like the Saints. But I mean, a Brady Breeze matchup in a championship game would be something to watch. So I hope that does end up happening.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. Yeah, Colts over Chiefs would be surprising, but wouldn't. I guess surprising to some people. Maybe not to me. Despite Mahomes being so great, I just think the Colts probably have the best roster overall in the NFL. Like they're just terrific. And maybe the Buccaneers. I think it's pretty close. So for me in the NFC Championship, or let's go AFC Championship, I have Chiefs versus Colts. I have the Chiefs winning 38-31. It's gonna be a close game. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if the Colts pull the upset, but I would trust Patrick Mahomes over Phillip Rivers at this stage of Rivers' career. And I think that, the Colts, their corners aren't like that great. Like maybe Xavier Rhodes, if he reverts back to what he was, that could really change things a lot. But if he's like average, I think that could really hurt the Colts trying to stop Mahomes. And we saw the Colts go to Kansas City a couple years ago, and there was that gif with Andrew Luck, and looks like this frostbite on his beard. It's going to be super cold in Kansas City, and a Colts dome team going to Kansas City in what should be frigid weather. I think that could put the Chiefs over the top, but we'll see. In the NFC Championship, the Buccaneers versus the Giants. TJ, I don't have the Giants beating the Buccaneers. I was kind of tempted because Tom Brady does have a bad history versus the Giants in the playoffs, Super Bowl, obviously. This time he sees in the NFC Championship, but it's not Eli Manning. It's Daniel Jones, and it's I think it's the inexperience that might get Daniel Jones here. I just don't think that the Giants. I love the Giants offense. I just don't think it could keep up with Tom Brady. I think Brady's kind of a monster year with all of his weapons, with all of his determination to prove that he can win without Belichick. I just think that Brady could have an MVP type season. Wouldn't surprise me if he won MVP, and I think he might be a good bet to win MVP just based on that. The Buccaneers winning 34-20.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. So we both have the Bucs in the Super Bowl. I'm glad we don't have the exact same Super Bowl matchup, because I want to say that's happened like I can't remember how many years that's happened, but I think it's happened like probably 3 of the last 7 years we've had the same Super Bowl matchup. But at least this one's different. So I have Colts versus Bucs at the end. I think that's going to be a really great Super Bowl matchup. Again, 2 veteran quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers playing for his first title. Tom Brady playing for his 7th, and one with the new team. So I definitely, as much as I'd like to see Phillip Rivers get a title, I just think the Buccaneers, it's their year. They have great coaching. They have a fantastic offense. They've fixed all their problems on that side of the ball in free agency and during the draft. I mean, hypothetically, provided the guys pan out. And defense, I think they're underrated. I think they'll be able to do enough to disrupt Phillip Rivers and cover the Colts receivers. So I have the Buccaneers winning in the Super Bowl. It'll be a big time win for Tom Brady. It'll prove that he can win without Bill Belichick. And on the off chance that Cam Newton does get the Patriots to the Super Bowl, I would also be happy to see Belichick versus Brady and Cam Newton against the Bucs. But I think I can live with Bucs Colts Super Bowl, and I think the Bucs ultimately come out on top there.
That'd be interesting. Brady versus Belichick. That'd be tremendous. I think that would be my favorite pre-hype Super Bowl ever. Like, I'm usually not for like Super Bowl hype, but like Brady versus Belichick would be something else. That'd be one for the ages. I have the Buccaneers winning as well over the Chiefs. And this is a game I really stewed over for a while. Like I knew I was going to have these two teams meet in the Super Bowl, but I didn't know how I was going to play it out. The more I thought about it is like, the formula, as I said before, to beat these elite quarterbacks is to pressure them as much as possible with 4 men, no blitzing. And then on top of that, you have to outscore them in the fourth quarter. The 49ers did the first part last year. They really got to Mahomes. Eric Fisher was overwhelmed by Nick Bosa. It was just a nightmare game for him. And the Chiefs were down and entering the fourth quarter. And if the 49ers had scored at all in the fourth quarter, they probably would have won. But Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't do that. He just wasn't up to it. But there's a big difference between Garoppolo and Tom Brady. Even at 43, I think Tom Brady is still better, and he's got better weapons. He's got Chris Godwin, he's got Mike Evans, he's got Robert Gronkowski, OJ Howard if he's not traded, and then you have Cameron Brate. Plus maybe one of his running backs steps up, and I like the offensive line they have there. So I love the Tampa Bay offense, and I think that with their great pass rush, they have JPP, they have Barrett, Shaq Barrett. They have and they have Ndamukong Suh, and they have Vita Vea, like the great defensive line, and I think their secondary is going to improve a lot as well. I love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster overall, and I know this is in Tampa. A team has never hosted the Super Bowl before, but there's a first time for everything, and I think that if there's going to be a first time for everything, it might as well be Tom Brady winning it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been there. He's done it. He's the type of guy that could knock off Mahomes and just say, like, hey, you got a little bit of a way to go before you're the best quarterback of all time. And, with as much success as Mahomes has had, I think that it's certainly possible that he will slip up at some point, or maybe not him, but the team around him. So I think we're both on the same page with the Buccaneers being Super Bowl MVP or Super Bowl contenders. I could not think of the word contenders for the life of me. So I think that I think that they'll ultimately win. I could also see the Chiefs making the Super Bowl, but what I tend to do is if I'm already predetermined that I'm going to have a certain team win the Super Bowl, I pick the team in the other championship game. I pick an upset. So just so I'm different. So I pick the Colts to be different, and also because I think they could beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it's good to be different. It's more impressive if you get it right. That's something that a friend of mine who works for a couple of newspapers told me ahead of the Colts Bears Super Bowl last decade. Like, I didn't know who I was going to pick to win. I was like, probably the Colts, but I could see the Bears defense really struggle, really doing well against Manning. And he's like, well, if you pick the Bears and they win, you'll look better. So I'm like, all right, I'll pick the Bears. And that was a stupid thing, but it does work out if it wins. So I could definitely see that happening. So to review, you had, I'm typing this out now. You had in the playoffs, you had Chiefs, Ravens, Colts, Bills as your top four teams, right? And then you had Steelers, Patriots, and then Denver, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, in the NFC, you had number one, you had Tampa. Number two, you had Seattle. Number three, you had who was it?
Green Bay.
Green Bay. Number four was the Giants, I believe.
Yep.
Who was number five?
I had Saints at 5, Vikings at 6, and 49ers at 7.
There we go. So I should add that, and now it's there because we had a request for a banner. So there's your teams. To review mine, I had the Chiefs, Colts, Ravens, Bills as my top four AFC. Patriots, Browns, Steelers as the wild cards. And then in the NFC, I had Buccaneers, 49ers, Giants, Vikings, then the Saints, Seahawks, and Cardinals. And we had you had Tampa Bay beating the Colts in the Super Bowl. I had the Tampa Bay beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.